This story begins with a grandfather who has a friend, a super rare seahorse monster from ancient times that causes a stir in the military. Plus at that time the village was in the middle of a world war. How is the story? Prepare your favorite snacks and drinks because the story will begin soon. This little boy is named Angus. He is an orphan whose father died in a war at sea. Their habit is that every time the tide is high they look for shellfish and fish to be kept as pets. One bright morning Angus was sitting on the edge of the beach contemplating his father's fate in the ocean, and he saw something round but covered in dirt and some sea parasites, and he took it to his house. On a rainy night Angus heard a strange sound from his warehouse. Something he had found in the sea fell to the floor combined with a strange liquid and the movements of an unrecognized animal. Their introduction was not so smooth. It took a bait in the form of potatoes so that this animal would come out of hiding. The next day a platoon of soldiers came in droves to Angus' house, because their house was close to the ocean. The government through the army made his house a headquarters as well as a place of defense for the Navy, led by Captain Thomas, who seemed interested in the story of Angus' mother who had a husband who was a soldier. We named this young man Roberto. He is Angus' father's partner. Now he is assigned to clean the warehouse and it will also be his residence. Then when Mr. Roberto was tidying up the warehouse, Angus' pet disappeared who knows where. Angus looked for it outside while the seahorse was being chased by dogs, until finally the ancient seahorse was no longer Angus's secret. When his sister wanted to take a bath with his instincts he entered the bathroom and went straight into the bathtub that had been filled with water. Now its growth is very fast and in 2 nights it is as big as a bulldog. Not long after that Mr. Roberto came who wanted to fix the clogged toilet drain. It was certain that they had to keep the secret together from Angus' mother who didn't like them having pets. Given the seahorse's growth rate is very fast, now its size is as big as a bull, so they intend to return it to its natural habitat. It is reported that the height of the animal can reach 5 meters with a weight of 1 ton when it is an adult, and that can change in just 1 night. Every meeting there must be a separation. Angus' heart is still not willing to let go of his pet. Because Angus' house was used as a military headquarters, Captain Thomas made Angus participate in military activities starting from lining up to building tents. Sometimes he was also made like a slave. Angus had not seen his pet for a long time. At first he only called from the dock but there was no sign of its arrival. He took the initiative to immediately paddle the boat to the ocean. Finally they met. The size of the legendary seahorse was as tall as a giraffe. In a calm situation, Captain Thomas invited Angus' family to the hill on the left side of the ocean to watch a simulation of an attack using a cannon. This is a way to prevent enemies from entering through the sea route. Angus had realized that this was not good for the seahorse. 2 cannons were fired into the ocean simultaneously. But not just 2 cannons, but all the cannons were sounded. In the evening, Mr. Ewan and Angus planned to see the legendary seahorse. When called there was no response and suddenly, his pet, which was previously tame and friendly, suddenly appeared in front of Angus and wanted to bite him. His hand was almost taken away from his body. Fortunately Mr. Ewan pulled it. Apparently the result of the cannon explosion made the seahorse traumatized and almost made him forget Angus. At the same time, 3 soldiers were curious and were going to hunt seahorses for their dinner. When they were going home, Ewan and Angus heard the cook's pet bulldog barking loudly, and not only them who heard it, the soldiers also heard it and immediately went to the source of the sound. It would have been better if Angus had arrived first than the men in uniform. Unfortunately, the bulldog's fate was less fortunate in this film. The ancient seahorse suddenly appeared in front of the boat. They were immediately shocked and one of them reported it to headquarters. Because the signal was bad at that time, Captain Thomas's subordinates reported that they were being attacked. Automatically, panic occurred in the house. Back to the men who attacked earlier when they attacked with firearms. The animal's true nature became fierce. Their ship sank due to the seahorse's shut-off clock. After seeing the soldier fall from the ship, Angus called his pet's name so that the men would not be hurt. Unfortunately, it was not listened to and Angus began to approach him into the sea. Even though he knew he couldn't swim, he still dared to approach him until finally, even though the seahorse monster had helped him, Angus' mother and Captain Thomas had come to the beach right where the incident occurred as parents. It was only natural that his mother panicked because there was a seahorse monster that was her son's pet. While his mother was babbling here and there, the monster showed itself in front of many people and now many people believe that there is a monster in the sea. The amazement turned out to be only temporary. A cannon was fired into the sea. suddenly made the monster panic. Captain Thomas immediately reported to his subordinates to immediately stop the attack, but it didn't happen because heavy rain covered the area. With full enthusiasm, the soldiers fired the cannon while Captain Thomas and Roberto followed Angus to the open sea. At the cannon headquarters, a soldier reported that he saw a submarine telescope. It must have been entered by an insider. They became even more enthusiastic in attacking. From under the sea, Angus dived to avoid the attack. The situation got worse. The soldier holding the telescope said that there were members of the army who were chasing the target, so the shooting was stopped and a giant net 20 meters high was raised, which was intended so that the target could not run. The net is getting higher, but Angus is still far away. As a result, they are both trapped there. This is where they part. The monster must return to its natural habitat. And finally, the monster returned to its natural habitat. Since then, no one has seen the monster until Angus grew up to be an elderly person.